Everything surrounding the Steelers' quarterback decision in 2025 revolves around the team choosing between either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields to be brought back as this team's QB1 for the 2025 NFL season. And the question that is on every Steelers fan's mind right now heading into this offseason is which quarterback are they going to decide to go with into the future? Today on Steelers Talk, I'm going to give you guys an in-depth breakdown of the case for Russell Wilson and the case for Justin Fields, and I'll break down their skill sets, what they do well, what they don't do well, why the Steelers might bring back Russ, why the Steelers might bring back Fields, and at the end of it here, I'm going to give you guys my prediction as to what the Steelers are going to do at this position heading into the 2025 season. But before we get into the content today, it is the end of January, and we're trying to win the month of January when it comes to total subs gained here on Steelers Talk. We are currently just a few subscribers behind the Cleveland Browns report, and I know Steelers fans out there do not want to lose to the Browns. So right now, we're 13 subscribers behind the Browns report, and I know Matthew Peterson, the host of the Browns report, is just bragging to all of his fellow Browns fans down there. He just stole our studio, by the way. Matthew Peterson of the Browns report. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. New viewers, if you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, we are counting on you to help us win the North for the month of January. So first up here, let's talk about Russell Wilson. And let's go over the best case that I can make to bring back Russell Wilson as this team's starting quarterback in 2025. Now listen, man, I completely understand why a lot of fans want Russ gone and want to run Russ out of town, all right? And, I think that there's something, and there's a saying that I think really applies not only to football, but also to life, which is that, quote, the last impression is the lasting impression, right? People always make a big deal about first impressions, but in reality, the last impression that you make on a group or on a person is really what people remember. And for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024 and Russell Wilson, what fans remember is the late season collapse and really the last impression that Russ gave us there over those last 6 games where they lost 5 straight, and then, of course, that culminated in yet another first-round exit. I mean, that is the taste that he left in Steelers fans' mouths, pause, here over heading into the 2025 offseason. So I can completely understand why Steelers fans want to move on. You take a look at the numbers and how it's reflected in terms of the lasting impression that Russ has given us here as Steelers fans. I mean, first few weeks were awesome, man. 5-1 to start, 28.6 points per game. That was top 5 in all of football. The yards per game was tops towards in terms of NFL passing yards for quarterbacks at that point in time. He was getting touchdowns. He wasn't turning the ball over all that much, and his EPA was top 10 among quarterbacks for the entire season at that point at 28.72. But then the final 6 weeks, he went 1-5. The points per game dipped over 13 points a game over that final 6-game stretch. The yards per game went down almost 100 yards per game. He threw less touchdowns in that final 6-game stretch, and then the EPA went down 50 points in those last 6 weeks. So that's a huge dramatic shift from the first 6 weeks to the final 6 weeks when he had to play better competition. And listen, man, if you don't want Russell Wilson to be back as this team's starting quarterback, I get it. I hear you, all right? And why bring Russ back in 2025 if he wasn't good enough to get the job done in 2024? I hear that argument all the time, and honestly, guys, I think it's a very reasonable thing to think if you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. But to be fair to Russell Wilson, all right, if I can play devil's advocate to that argument here, he was put in a tough situation in 2024 where, I just don't know if, what he was asked to do was necessarily what he was brought in to do. All right, so you take a look at the other offensive struggles that the Steelers had in 2024 outside of Russell Wilson. They didn't have the run game that they were expecting. They were hoping to have a top 5 to top 10 run game. Instead, it was bottom 10. They had poor pass protection. We'll go over some numbers for that to prove that in just a second. Also, they had subpar receiving weapons. We all know that, especially when George Pickens got hurt. He had really nobody to throw to consistently. And then the shaky play calling from Arthur Smith was certainly not ideal either. So we can look at all 4 of those issues right here. We'll start with the rushing offense, right? So they had the 6th most rushing attempts per game. So Arthur Smith really committed to the run, but despite that, they were 25th in yards per attempt, 24th in EPA, and 28th in success rate. That's bottom 10 in all the three major team rushing categories that you look at to determine the efficiency of a run game in the National Football League. That wasn't good enough, and that wasn't the expectation heading into the year for this team. Then you look at the pressure numbers and what the offensive line did to protect Russell Wilson. I mean, his average time to throw wasn't great. It was 2.86. That was better than what it was in Denver. It was an improvement, but certainly wasn't fantastic, 28th in the league. But his pressure percentage was 40th. So there was a 12-point difference there in the rankings between these two things. That was the 9th worst in the National Football League. All right, guys? So Russell Wilson did not benefit from the offensive line protection that he got. Now let's shift to the offensive weapons that he had. These were the top three receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024. And if you think this looks bad, it's because it is. Not a single 1,000-yard receiver on this team last year. The person with the second most wide receiver reps, Van Jefferson, only had 276 total yards on the season. And then Calvin Austin was a little bit better overall. But, even George Pickens' numbers went down from what we expected from him in 2024 because he was double-teamed all the time and Russ couldn't get him the football as much as he would have liked. And then when it comes to the play calling, how about this damning evidence in the first half of games? And by the way, these numbers apply for both Justin Fields and Russell Wilson with Arthur Smith calling the plays, so it's not just on Russ. Only 3 first-quarter touchdowns the entire season, none of those coming on the first drive of the game. So the game plans were terrible heading into football games from Arthur Smith. Also, no games with more than 7 points in the first quarter. So you're not starting games off on the right foot. Only 2 first halves with at least 14 points, both of them with Russell Wilson at quarterback, and then 9 times they scored 14-plus points in the second half when either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson had to throw the ball more often. So the question that should be on your mind right now, guys, is was Russ supposed to overcome all of the things that went wrong with the Steelers offense last year? Like what was the expectation here? That Russell Wilson was going to turn into Danger Russ, MVP caliber Russ from Seattle, put on the Superman cape and completely carry this offense and carry this team despite a bad run game, despite bad pass protection, despite bad play calling, and despite a subpar weapons group? I mean, come on, let's have a little bit of grace for Russell Wilson here, at least in my opinion. Let me know down there in the comments section, what is the percent chance or the percent of the blame that you give Russell Wilson for the Steelers' collapse in 2024? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning it's not his fault whatsoever, to 100, meaning it's all his fault. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. For today's pinned comment, YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me a number between 0 and 100. Listen, man, my expectation heading into the year was that Russ was already a limited quarterback, and he needed things around him, and he needed help to have success here in Pittsburgh. He proved that in Denver, where he didn't have great pass protection. He didn't have a stellar a wide receiver group or anything like that, and he proved that he couldn't carry an NFL team anymore. So if that was your expectation for Russ heading into 2024, and if that's still your expectation for him in 2025, I don't think you understand the type of quarterback that Russell Wilson is anymore, where he used to be Mr. Unlimited. Now he's Mr. Limited, okay? There's 2 big limitations that Russell Wilson has in his game. Number 1, he's not the playmaker out of structure that he used to be, and that's because Father Time is catching up with him, and he can't move the same way he used to when he was a younger man. Number 2, his short stature prevents him from progressing past his first read within the pocket, all right? So he's really a one-read to panic quarterback at this point, and I certainly understand those criticisms of Russell Wilson at this point in time. But you have to remember, what was Russell Wilson brought in to do here in Pittsburgh? He was brought in to protect the football, to throw the ball downfield, deliver on a third down from time to time, and deliver in the clutch when the clutch moments came. So let's go over these one at a time. Number 1, protect the football. I think you can check that one for Mr. Russell Wilson. His turnover-worthy play percentage last year was 1.7%. That was the 3rd best among quarterbacks in the National Football League. So in terms of doing that part of his job, he did a good job. Number 2, throw the ball downfield. I think you can check that one as well, and we can take a look at some numbers to show you how efficient Russell Wilson was when throwing the ball 10-plus yards down the field last year. He was 6th in big-time throw percentage, which is a really good metric to show how much and how difficult the kinds of throws a quarterback is converting. He was 6th in that category, and then he was 1st in both downfield yards per attempt and downfield EPA per attempt. So he was the most efficient downfield passer in the entire National Football League last year. It's just when it was 9 to 0 yards is really where he struggled. And then you look at the other things that he needed to do, deliver on third down. I think you can check that box as well on third and long. His EPA per attempt was 0.2598, which ranked fourth in the National Football League. So he was top 5 in third and long situations when the defense knew he had to throw the football. And then delivering in the clutch, I think you can check that box as well. All right, so when it comes to the things that the Pittsburgh Steelers ask of Russell Wilson to do, I think that he does do all these things at an extremely high level. Russell Wilson is top 10 all-time in both game-winning and fourth-quarter drives, and I still think that he showed in spurts last year that he is more than capable of still being a clutch quarterback in the fourth quarter. Do we remember the game-winning drive he had against the Commanders, throwing that beautiful moon ball to Mike Williams to win that game in Week 11? How about the great performance in the snow in Week 12 on Thursday Night Football versus the Browns? He delivered a game-winning drive, or potential game-winning drive, throwing that ball to Calvin Austin III. Then the potential, then he had some really good throws in that final game against the Cincinnati Bengals in the fourth quarter as well. Remember, Pat Freiermuth dropped a pass, George Pickens dropped multiple passes. Russell Wilson played phenomenally in that fourth quarter. So I still think Russ can deliver a clutch drive, and that's what the Steelers want him to do, and I think that is something he's still more than capable of doing. Remember, just last year with Denver, or 2 years ago at this point, I should say, he led the league in game-winning drives. So Russ can still do those 4 things that the Steelers originally brought him to do, but there are some issues with bringing back Russell Wilson next year. Number 1, you have to play quote-unquote Russ ball, all right? Because of Russ's limitations, not being able to see over the middle of the field past his first read and not being able to be the high-end, out-of-structure playmaker he used to be, you have to play a certain type of offense, all right? You have to have a high-powered run game to be the main engine of the offense. That's absolutely crucial. If you bring Russ back, you have to figure out the run game. You also have to have a lot of deep shots off of play action so that he can use that really efficient deep ball that he has in his arsenal to help out the offense and create chunk plays. You have to have a lot of quick game concepts that get the ball out of his hands quickly. And you have to limit full field progressions because he can only get through that first read in a full field progression. And then if you're calling these, you're going to be taking a lot of sacks because he's going to be running for his life if they take away the first read. But the question is Arthur Smith, who kind of runs more of a full field progression type of passing game, that's the type of offense he wants to run, is he really okay running it back and running this Russell Wilson style of offense? And personally, I think the answer to that question, guys, is no. And then the second issue that I have with bringing Russell Wilson back is, what does the contract look like? All right, like when you look at Russell Wilson, I think that you're looking at, somebody that's a borderline top 20 quarterback in the league. Right now, Pro Football Focus is projecting that he's going to get a 2-year, $35 million per season contract this offseason. In my opinion, that is too much for Russell Wilson, and he isn't worth that. All right, I think that he's much more worth around like $20 to $25 million per season, and that would be my red line. All right, if Russell Wilson wants more than $25 million per year over 2 seasons with $30 million guaranteed, I'm saying you can go have fun in Las Vegas. You can go have fun with the New York Giants. Or if you want to come play for the Pittsburgh Steelers next year, you have to take a lower contract figure, and you're probably going to have to sign a 1 or at least a 2-year contract to come back to Pittsburgh. But listen, man, there's just no way, in my opinion, with the limitations he brings to the table, that you should pay him $35 million a year. Then the third issue that I have with bringing Russell Wilson back is that Pittsburgh needs to fix all of their issues to even contend for a Super Bowl next year. All right, and there's a long list of issues that they need to fix this offseason. The defense needs to play a lot better than what they played down the stretch in 2024. That's for damn sure. The offensive line needs to reach its potential. All right, there's a lot of question marks and a lot of young players on that offensive line. All of them need to grow up. Then the run game needs to go from bottom 10 to top 5. That's not going to be easy to do. The Steelers' wide receiver room needs to get a lot better. And then Russ himself can't fall off a cliff when it comes to his downfield production. So all 5 of these things need to happen for the Steelers if Pittsburgh's going to be a Super Bowl contender with Russell Wilson as their quarterback next year. I don't love those odds, man. To go 5 for 5 on a parlay here, it's going to be tough to do. And I do think that it'd be nice if the Steelers could get a quarterback that, doesn't need everything around him to be perfect. The offense needs to be completely tailored to his skill set. The run game needs to be a top 5 unit. The defense has to be top 5. I'd love to have a quarterback that could actually elevate this team and potentially get this team to a title without the rest of the team being perfect around him. So coming up here, I'm going to let you know if I think Justin Fields can be that type of quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025 and beyond. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the best place for you to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. What I love about using the Game Time app and why it's the only ticketing app I have on my phone is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event, all-in pricing, so you don't get slapped with a crazy fee at checkout. And if you're like me, guys, you like to get tickets last minute, you guys can get flash deals on the Game Time app, so you guys can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. That's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. It's just for that first purchase, guys. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So the case for Justin Fields to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers pretty much goes like this. He's younger, he's got the higher upside, and, really the Steelers would be banking on him having a fifth-year breakout season with this football team in the second year in the black and gold. And I just want to make this point 100% clear, because I know there's a lot of Steelers fans out there that think Justin is already a top 10 or a top 15 quarterback. That's not the case, all right? He is 100% still a projection and somebody that needs to get a lot better if he wants to be a star quarterback, all right? If you don't believe me, that more than half of Steelers fans think that Justin Fields is already a top 15 quarterback. We put this poll up on our channel earlier this week where almost 57%, all right, 56% of fans say that Justin Fields is top 15 or better, and 11% saying he's top 10. Well, we look at his numbers, guys, and I just wonder what exactly are we looking at here? Because he's ranking in the mid-20s or the low 20s or even worse than that in all the major analytical fields that you look at with quarterbacks. EPA per play, 25th. The catchable ball percentage, which measures accuracy, 24th. His average depth of target, he's not really throwing the ball down the field, 24th. Yards per attempt, 23rd. I mean, it's not like these are top 15, top 10 numbers, so it's obvious that he still has a ways to go. And then you look at the results of the plays that he was playing last year when he was the starting quarterback, 32nd in the league in positive play percentage, so that's every single play. That's the percentage of plays that ended with an EPA above 0. Just 42.9% of his plays ended that way. When it comes to plays that ended with an EPA of over 1, the boom percentage, just 18.1%. That ranked 34th. And then his bust percentage, somebody that was playing pretty conservatively, I would say, still a 16.9% bust percentage, which is a -1 EPA, which ranked 28th in the league. So it's not like the numbers are really pointing to Justin Fields being a current top 10, top 15 level quarterback. Also, he wasn't even better than Russell Wilson, the same guy we talked about that people want to run out of town here in Pittsburgh. You take a look at the numbers last year between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. The team scored more points with Russ at quarterback. They had more yards per play. They were more efficient that way. Also, you got more. Russ ranked higher in EPA per play. The big time throw percentage was points higher, and then the turnover-worthy play percentage was a full point less with Russell Wilson. So if Russell Wilson's not good enough and Justin Fields doesn't get any better, how the heck are the Steelers' offense going to get better, right? So you look at the downfield passing stats as well. All right, this is what the Steelers want to do. They want to have a power run game, and they want to throw the ball down the field. As you guys can see here, Russell Wilson is clearly the more efficient downfield passer compared to Justin Fields. He's more accurate, he's more efficient, and he's got his EPA per attempt is almost double what Justin Fields had last year, guys. So when it comes to what the Steelers want to do, you could certainly make an argument Russell Wilson is the better quarterback for what the Steelers want to do. All right, and the reason why his numbers aren't what they could be given his talent are these issues. All right, I think his upper body mechanics are quote-unquote elbowy. He raises that elbow up really, really high. You don't see that with a lot of high-level passers in the league. He's got imprecise pocket footwork, which jacks up his timing. He's got lackluster pocket presence, so he doesn't know when to step up, when to escape pockets, all these different things. He's very inconsistent on his first read. Many times his first read will be wide open, and he doesn't throw it to him. Also, he struggles to get to that secondary read and locks onto that first target way too much. He struggles with touch passing down the field. He holds the ball for too long, and he's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the National Football League in the clutch. You take a look at his numbers in the clutch, guys. I mean, look how atrocious these numbers are when the game is on the line with Justin Fields in his career. 41st in completion percentage, 42nd in interception percentage, and 41st in passer rating. And in 44 career starts, he only has 2 fourth-quarter comebacks and 4 game-winning drives total in his career. All right, and then also, if you want to talk about situations where the defense knows Justin has to throw the football, his EPA per attempt last year on 3rd and long was 34th in the National Football League. So it's not like Justin Fields is lighting it up as a passer, and honestly, he's not doing enough out of structure to make up for his lacks in the in-structure game. And, when defenses know Justin Fields has to throw, guys, whether it's in the 2-minute drill, whether it's 3rd and long, whatever the case, whatever the situation is, if the defense knows the Steelers are throwing and Justin Fields is the quarterback, things do not go well, plain and simply. And that's going to have to change if Justin Fields is going to be the starting quarterback of this team. But with all that being said, all right, I got all the negative stuff on Fields out of the way. I understand why people want to go to him. All right, I get it. All right, and I understand the arguments for it. And honestly, I'm more and more, I'm starting to get on the Justin Fields train. Because the reality is in the AFC, guys, is that there are multiple first-ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks in this conference. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. Who knows what talents like Trevor Lawrence, C.J. Stroud, and others are going to become in years to come. This is a conference full of dudes at the quarterback position. And if you're a Steelers fan and you're saying, hey, man, Justin Fields has dude-level upside and Russell Wilson is a super limited quarterback prospect right now, like, I understand it. I really, really do, because Justin is the type of guy and has the type of talent that can get to that quote-unquote dude level of quarterback play if he hits. And if he does hit, that would be awesome for Pittsburgh. I mean, like Russell Wilson, if you go with him, you have to be perfect. All right, the defense has to be elite. The run game has to be elite. You have to make additions to the wide receiver room. The offensive line needs to hit. Everything needs to go right with Russell Wilson. If Justin Fields hits and becomes a star quarterback, you don't need as many of those things to happen in 2025 to still be a very competitive football team. And then there's the argument here that with all the new VR technology that is being utilized by NFL quarterbacks now, we've seen the success with guys like Jaden Daniels, Sam Darnold, Marcus Mariota, using this VR technology to help their mental processing out. That's exactly what Justin Fields could do to become the superstar level quarterback he has the potential to become. So you can check out our video on the VR stuff here. I'm going to put the link to that one in the comments and description of today's show, and I'll also put the chip in the top right if you want to learn more about this VR technology and why it could unlock Justin Fields to be the next superstar quarterback in the NFL. And if Pittsburgh invests in this technology in VR and Justin Fields spends the entire offseason improving his vision, improving his mental processing ability, I'm all in on this kid, man. He's got a dynamic rushing ability, fantastic arm talent. He's got the big body, of course. I think he's got the skill set to really thrive in an Arthur Smith offense if he can develop this mental processing side of his game. But also, with that being said, is Art Rooney, the biggest stiff in the world, actually going to invest in this type of technology and bring the VR headsets to Pittsburgh? I really don't know the answer to that question. If they do, I'm all in on Justin Fields. But if they don't, I have serious question marks as to whether Fields is going to be able to develop as an in-structure playmaker to be the type of quarterback that Steelers fans already think that he is. All right, but another thing that is a benefit for Justin Fields is that he's going to be far cheaper than Russell Wilson. All right, and this is certainly something that is in his column. All right, like right now, Pro Football Focus projects a 1-year, $11 million contract for Mr. Fields, whereas like we talked about earlier, it's 2 years, $35 million per season as a projection for Russell Wilson. So when it comes to talent level, ability for the price tag, you can certainly make an argument Justin Fields is the better value here. And before we get into kind of a final closing argument for both quarterbacks here, guys, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you want more in-depth, nerdy videos like this one, we go in-depth on these quarterbacks. We go in-depth on a lot of different topics right here on Steelers Talk. You're not going to find any more informative in-depth coverage like this anywhere else on Steelers YouTube. So make sure you click that thumbs up icon and also click that subscribe button as well. So before I go here, one last quick comparison. And, I've thrown a lot of information at you in this video, but I wanted to get just a quick kind of list going of the things that Russ brings to the table that I think are benefits versus what Fields brings to the table that I think he does better than Russ. So the things that Russ does better than Fields right now. He's more experienced in the playoffs. For a team like the Steelers that are trying to win Super Bowls right now, that matters, all right? Fields' inexperience in the playoffs could certainly hurt them, even if he gets them to the playoffs next year. Touch passing, it's not even close. Russ has some of the best touch out of any quarterback in the league. Fields has some of the worst. Downfield efficiency. We saw the numbers earlier. You guys can go back and see the downfield efficiency. Russ is much better. Third and long efficiency. When the defense knows Russ has to throw it, he's still top 5 in the league, whereas Justin Fields ranks 34th. He's more clutch than Justin Fields. We've seen that throughout the course of these guys' career. He protects the ball better. He's better pre-snap in deciphering what the defense wants to do to him. He's better on his first read. He's more accurate, and he plays with better anticipation. So those are the benefits of Russell Wilson. Now let's see the benefits of Justin Fields. He's got the higher upside. All right, we know the limitations that come with Russ, but Fields could elevate past those limitations and take this team to a whole nother level. Plus, he could be a potential long-term starting quarterback option. He's only 1 year older than Jaden Daniels right now, guys. He's got dynamic rushing ability. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's better at managing pressure than Russell Wilson is. The out-of-structure playmaking is better than Russ's at this point. Throwing over the middle of the field, I'd say, is better than Russ at this point in his career as well. He's a better scheme fit for what Arthur Smith wants to run. He's better in the red zone because of his ability to run the football and get into the end zone that way. He had 5 touchdowns in the red zone last year. He's cheaper, and then with the VR opportunities out there, guys, he could unlock his mental processing ability to take his game to the next level. So the closing argument for Russell Wilson is that he's the more established, efficient, and clutch quarterback between the two. All right, it's not even close in those regards. But also, Justin Fields' closing argument is that he could be the best quarterback. He's got the higher upside between the two. All right, and with this new VR tech that's available to him and the Steelers this offseason, if they decide to adopt it, he could absolutely take his game to the next level and become the top 10, top 15, maybe even top 5 level quarterback that this man has the potential to become. So now that I've laid it all out for you guys, given you guys all the information, now it's your turn to get in the comments. Take your pick for me down there in the comments section. Would you rather go with Russell Wilson next year, the more established clutch veteran, or would you rather go with Justin Fields, the unproven but higher upside younger quarterback? Type RW for Russell Wilson or type JF down there in the comments section and give me your favorite argument for your QB down there in the comments. And my answer to this question, guys, is I'm behind whoever they decide to go with. If they decide to go back to Russ and try to win a Super Bowl with him, I'm going to get behind him. I'm going to be a fan of this team no matter what. If they decide to go to Fields, I'm going to be excited about the future. And that's what I think they're going to do, guys. My best guess is that they turn to Justin Fields. I don't think Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith want Justin to get out of their building. I think they view him as a potential long-term option for this team. And as I've detailed in this video, I can understand why they see him that way, and especially if they implement this VR technology, guys. I think this man right here could potentially be something special in the years to come, but he still has a lot to prove. All right, guys, that'll be it for today's show. I know it was a long one. I didn't do any draft content today, but I have been doing a bunch of draft content on our draft channel here at Chat Sports. I've done Senior Bowl winners. I've done Shrine Bowl winners, both in the last 24 hours on that channel. So I'm going to put the link to that channel in the comments and description of today's show so you guys can check out my draft content if you want to know the players at these All-Star games that could benefit the Pittsburgh Steelers. Go ahead and check those videos out. I appreciate all of your support, and I know today was a long video, guys. Make sure you click that subscribe button, because if you made it to the end of today's video, I know you're going to enjoy the other in-depth content we have for you guys this offseason right here on Steelers Talk.